Hello students, today our lesson is definition of economics. Now we are going to see different views of different people about economics, and the people who give their views about economics are called economists. So the first one is the view given by Adam Smith. Okay, his view is all about wealth. Now I'll just tell you a little about his ideas. Basically he thinks that wealth is everything. He thinks that only wealth can help the country to grow. He thinks if there is enough wealth in the country, then the citizens of that particular country are very happy. Okay, so this is his point of view. Now we are going to see the features of this definition. The first feature is study of wealth. Basically Adam Smith's definition largely deals with only wealth of the nation. So he believes that the prosperity of the country or the success of the country only depends upon wealth. The second thing is stress on wealth. So basically here he talks about he thinks that wealth is the most important factor in the human society. He thinks that only wealth can fulfill all the desires of life. Okay, so he is assuming that everything that happens in the society leads to more and more earning of wealth. The next feature is causes of wealth. So basically according to Adam Smith, he shows that economics deals with the causes behind the creation of wealth. That means he believes that wages that are earned by the humans or human resources is the main source of income of a country. Okay, and he said that apart from wages there can be nothing which can contribute to the wealth of a country. So he thinks only the wages earned are the wealth, are an income earning source for the country, and there is nothing else apart from wages. The next thing is economic man. Now he thinks that man is always aware of his self-interest. He has this idea that he is focusing on the role of an economic man. So basically he claims that economics studies the behavior of those human beings who have only one objective, and that is to earn wealth, more and more wealth. So that means he is thinking that a man is economic when he thinks only and only about his own interest, and his own interest can only be about earning more and more wealth. Okay, and nothing else. The next that we are going to talk about today is the criticisms of his definition. Now there are some people who said no, that Adam Smith's definition is wrong. So they are trying to criticize or give a negative point of view of the definition. So the first point is undue importance to wealth. See, basically we have to understand that Adam Smith totally gave the priority to wealth. Okay, he gave second position to mankind. Okay, so the critical people said that human life is something that we cannot sacrifice for wealth. That means human life should be the priority and not wealth. Okay, the next point, as you can see, is science of only wealth and material. So basically Adam Smith was considering economics as science of wealth and material. Okay, so he is talking only about material goods and wealth, but he did not consider the role of non-material goods, or non-material services that help and lead to the welfare of the society, of the human being. So basically other critics say that his definition is only depending upon materialistic things and wealth, whereas it is not like that. We cannot neglect the services rendered by the doctors, teachers and lecturers and engineers. Other people are giving their services also to fulfill the human wants. So we cannot neglect this. But Adam Smith did not consider this at all. The next point is problem of scarcity. That means he has totally ignored the fact that in an economy there can be a problem of scarcity. And what kind of scarcity? Scarcity of resources. The second point of view that we are going to see is of Lionel Robbins. Now Lionel Robbins has a different point of view to economics. He says that it is the science which studies human behavior. And what in the human behavior are we studying? As a relationship between ends and scarce means which have alternative uses. Now basically in his definition he is talking about humans. He is talking about the behavior, about how humans react to the unlimited wants, to the limited resources, to the alternative uses of the resources. He is talking about the human reaction and behavior towards these things. Now let's see the features of his point of view. The first feature is man has innumerable wants. That means man has unlimited wants. Every now and then one want is satisfied, a new one creeps up. So if today I want to buy a car, I buy a car, and tomorrow I will have a desire or a want of buying something new. My wants will keep changing. Well, wants are something that can never stop. Okay, every day a new want can erupt. Next point is wants can be arranged in order of their importance. Now he, according to Lionel's definition, we can understand that our wants can be arranged in an order of diminishing pattern. That means the want which is the most important and which is the most necessary one can be placed on top and can be given the priority. So you buy those wants first and then move on to the next want according to the need of the want. Okay, so you can place them in a certain sequence. Next is scarcity of means. Okay, basically means over here refers to the unlimited. Scarce means over here refers to the unlimited the limited resources. Okay, so here it talks about the goods and services that are used to satisfy human wants. Okay, so means are scarce. That means it can involve the time, energy, money, everything. It can include raw materials, it can include the productive resources, other kinds of manpower, energy, everything. All these things are limited. They are not unlimited. They are in a in a limited number. And if these means were abundant, there would have been no economic problem. But because they are limited, one is forced to postpone his choices, his wants, his necessities. Everything are to be delayed. Why? Because the means or the resources are very limited and scarce. The next is means have alternative uses. That means whatever resources are there, they should be used for different purposes to satisfy the human wants which are different. So for example, land. Okay, it can be used for different purposes. For example, you can use the land to construct a house. You can use the land to park a car. You can use the land to construct a factory. You can use the land to have a shop on it, or a school, or a hospital. So there are alternative uses of a particular kind of a resource. And the last feature is economics as a science. Now according to Robbins, economics is a science of choice. Okay, so he's talking about choice. So it contains a proper knowledge, a systematic knowledge according to the human efforts. Okay, so according to the human efforts which help in actually solving the economic problems of scarcity of resources. Now we are going to see the criticisms of his definition. The first criticism is concept of welfare is implicit. Implicit means something which is not clear. Okay, so basically the concept of welfare is implicit in this definition. So economics, economics is something about welfare also. It's not only about wealth, it's not only about limited means and unlimited wants, it's also about welfare, which is missing in this definition, which is not clear at all. Okay, next point is cause of economic problems. Now economic problems cannot only have one cause, okay, as scarcity, but scarcity is just one thing. There can be other reasons also for economic problems, and the other reason can also be surplus of goods. When there is excess goods, then that can lead to economic problems. For example, the Great Depression period in the 1930s, what happened? It was a stock market crash. That means it was a complete failure in the bank system. Okay, and this led to a lot of panic to the investors. Okay, so then what was happening? A situation of surplus of goods also took place. So basically, abundance of something can also cause economic problem. Okay, it's not always scarcity, but sometimes abundance, too much of something can also cause problems. The next criticism is availability of resources. In this, Robbins has considered availability of resources to be static. Okay, he is saying that resources are static. But if we see that resources may be augmented over a period of time. So basically Robbins' definition is not taking into account the growth in resources. You know, resources can slowly grow day by day. There can be increment in the resources available. But he is thinking that resources are static. If they are limited, they remain limited. That's what he is thinking. But this is not the truth. Resources can keep growing also. And the last criticism is aspects ignored. Now what kind of aspects are ignored? See, he is merely focusing on the microeconomic pattern of the economy, okay, or the microeconomic theory of economics. But he has forgotten other parts. For example, the national income. He is not considering employment over here. He is not considering the banking system, the taxation system. These are all missing in his definition. So he has ignored these aspects. Let's look into the third view of economics by Paul Samuelson, and this third view is about the growth. Okay, this definition says that economics is the study of how men and society choose. So how is a man and the society choosing? Are they choosing with money or are they choosing without money? Okay, are they employing the scarce productive resources which have alternative uses, which we also studied in the previous definition, that resources are scarce and they have alternative uses. And what is happening with these resources? Production is taking place. Production of various commodities are is taking place over time, and they are being distributed for the purpose of consumption. They are being consumed now, they will be consumed in the future. And who will consume them? People and the groups of society. This is the breakage of this point of view of Paul Samuelson, which leads to the growth definition of economics. Now we see the features of his definition. The first feature is efficient allocation of resources. See, basically what he is talking about is that there's quite a little similarity in the growth definition of Samuelson and the scarcity definition of Lionel Robbins. Okay, both have given this emphasis or stress upon the problem of scarcity. That means problem of scarcity of resources, and there are unlimited ones. Both have focused on that. But he has also talked about alternative uses of the resources, and both are talking about the same thing. So basically in this definition also Samuelson talks about unlimited wants, scarce means or resources, and alternative uses of every commodity or every resource. Next feature is dynamism. Okay, he has that means Paul Samuelson has given a very dynamic flavor to the definition. He has talked about the time span for production. He has talked about the time span for distribution, time span for consumption also. So the problem of growth has been included in this definition. So this brings about a new, it builds up a new system, a new idea altogether about economics, because there is a dynamism. Dynamism means he is talking about different things like the time of the production, time of the distribution of the product, time of the consumption. This is all dynamic. So this is a flavor added into this definition. Next feature is problem of choice. Okay, now here what happens is that Samuelson has quite broadened the definition in order to include the choices. Choices on the basis of what? Distribution and consumption. So he is talking about now also, he is talking about future also. Okay, he is talking about both the kinds of times. So when he is talking about both the kinds of times, present and future, he has intuitively brought the intergenerational choices related to use of resource base in sustainable manner, and thereby making choices not to use up all the resources in the present. So basically he is not only talking about present, he is also talking about future, saying that see, there is a problem of choice. So to avoid such situations, what is he saying? That resources are not to be fully used up in the present itself, बट फ्यूचर में उसको प्रोडक्शन के लिए रिसोर्सेज को यूज करना है. Okay, so because we cannot leave the resources depleted, we cannot leave the resources to finish off soon. Therefore, what is happening? The resources can be used in the future also. Next point is sustainable development. Now, in this definition, there is a talk about sustainable development. Okay, so it leaves room to accommodate the choices made for the use of renewable resources. Did you see that it also talks about the choices of people, choices made by people. Okay, it can be about renewable resources. So what happens is that when renewable resources are being utilized often, it will lead to the prosperity and success and growth of the nation. Okay, so that leads to prosperity of nation. So sustainable development is a good point where all the renewable resources will also be used. So that is also a feature of Paul Samuelson's definition. But there are two criticisms. Number one criticism is socio-economic and political factors are missing over here. He has taken a lot of involvement of different things. He has talked about welfare and talking about different aspects, but he forgot to talk about development in the welfare. Welfare is there in the society, he's talking about it, but he's not talking about the welfare through development. And there can be different kinds of developments like gender development index or gender inequality index, or standard of living index, poverty related index. These are all development processes which are being missed and ignored in his definition. And the second criticism is that he has also neglected the role of service sector in the growth. Okay, in the growth of the nation, he has neglected the role of service sector. That means he is not he is also somehow talking only about materialistic things. He is not talking about the services given by different people. So there is no mention of services that can be fulfilling the wants of the people. The next point of view is given by J.M. Keynes. See, he is talking about the study of administration of scarce means and determinants of employment and income. So basically, administration of scarce means where your resources, they are limited, of course, they are scarce, but how well are they being allocated to the proper place of work, and how they are being utilized. Are they being correctly utilized, properly utilized? Are they being correctly, evenly distributed for the purpose of work, for the purpose of production actually? So these are all things that come under administration of scarce means. And also his definition, that means Keynes' definition of economics, also talks about the determinants of employment and income. That means he's not only worried about the scarce means, he's also thinking about employment and income. So basically there has been a huge transformation in his definition. His definition stands totally different from all the others. Okay, so economics is not merely considered as a theory of value, or you cannot just call economics as a theory of resources and allocating the resources and utilizing it. So basically Keynes has given a very broad idea about economics. So as you see in his definition, we see that economic problem of scarcity of means and choices have actually approached from the point of view of society as a whole. Okay, so this is not an individual issue, it is about the entire society. We are studying economics about the entire society. Okay, so the study of economics is definitely about scarce means and how to administer them and everything about employment, income, but it should be from the point of view, it is approached from the point of view of the society and not from the point of view of an individual. I hope you all have understood. All the best.